Welcome, everybody. We are live with Hope, Power, and Healthcare. This is a podcast that didn't even have a name before a week ago. We're inviting you. You're looking at this while we are building it. So just excited to do a first episode, getting to know you, but also talking about some issues, a roundup of recent impactful items within the healthcare space, as well as relating to some things to pop culture, art, and music. We cover it all here, and we do it for people that are innovating within healthcare. I am Chris Hemphill, and who's joining me today?
Chris, I'm Melissa Reilly, and I am beyond excited to get to spend time with you every week in this adventure.
It's really too cool. It's really too cool. Back at my the previous company I was working for, we did some podcasting together, and we both have a passion for getting a certain type of message and a certain type of idea on what healthcare innovation should be about, providing that context, and then getting into some specifics about let's react to the latest things that are happening and see how that impacts us and how we can use that in our daily worlds and the things that we're trying to build.
I know, and I think we're just both so blessed because we're connected to this system of some of the most incredible innovators in healthcare. I remember fighting our friend Sam Norberg on who could be on more podcasts with you. And Sam was winning until today, because now I'm 3 and we're tied.
Oh my goodness. So you found the cheat code, because Sam, you're gonna have to become a co-host or something like that if you want to beat Melissa's numbers.
I had thoughts, on one day we're gonna need a clinician and continue to transform. And so I'm saving a spot for him.
So let's just do a little lay of the land here. We want to get into our purpose, what you should expect from episodes in the podcast, and how we hope that you can engage and make this a part of a conversation. But with that, so the thing about this, you're seeing it live. We haven't really discussed our purpose with each other. We haven't discussed that in depth. So this is the first time the first time we'll be doing that right here for you. Melissa, can you talk about your purpose?
Yeah, and I think it goes a lot into some of the things we'll talk about when we let the audience know a little bit of just who we are. But I feel like this last year has been such a transformation for me. And as I've been transforming, I've been meeting so many people that are either sad, stuck, dissatisfied with kind of where they are in their life. And a lot of them orient around the healthcare ecosystem. And so when I think about the things that I love to do, it's like set goals and coach and mentor, but also cheer and advocate for others to live some of their best lives. And so for me, if just one listener, walks away, inspired to start their own journey or, change their life to bring just an element of a little bit more happiness or satisfaction or gratitude, then I think we'll have won, Chris.
You're the perfect person to do that. You said you like to cheer and advocate. Well, you've given me a lot of energy in doing that, and I think I should take a little bit of time to brag on you. Background and experience within UHG, Optum, Evernorth, leading change, leading product development within those spaces, but then ultimately decided that it's time to get out there and work directly with people that are creating their own companies and innovations and digital health leadership. So every step of the way, seeing how you take on these challenges and how you can look at a blank canvas of a business and build something up so quickly. I'm just so excited about what you can share and how you can drive a lot of people to action and avoid second guessing themselves and self-doubt. You've got a great story to tell on that. I'm bragging on you.
Just want to brag back on you. I mean, I think both of us in some ways are a little bit multidimensional. And so when we are asked to introduce ourselves, I think sometimes we look at our audience and, we can be multi-hyphenate, right? For some, we're podcast hosts or speakers out in the, mental health or healthcare digital health circuit. For others, they've met me as a growth leader, or a product leader or a P&L leader, driving multiple teams forward. And so while I don't want to box us in, I think both of us, can flex. And I have the pleasure sometimes of getting to work with you and see what you can do around AI and data modeling and logic. And, when you create a product that involves AI and has machine learning, I'm learning from you. And that's one of the things that I continue to see about the best innovators in this space. They're helping each other. And so that's really what I think both of us aspire to do, like be continuous learners, continue to be multi-hyphenate, and help others, as we transform ourselves.
A great message, because a lot of people who are multi-hyphenate have diverging interests and things like that and want to think a little bit outside of the box. Maybe they don't find the right path working in somebody else's silo in large corporate environments and things like that. So I like what you're bringing to the table, and like, thank you, of course, thank you for the praise to me, but bringing up that multi-hyphenate aspect, like, we don't have to fit in someone's box. You can go out and create a pathway on your own. I love that.
Well, and I think the landscape is shifting too, right? If we took a really systems look at things, and not to get super nerdy, there used to be such specification, and right? You look at the Kaizen principles and you distill everything to its most narrowest element, right? And you maximize efficiency. But someone else was telling me that the future of work is fractional. And so that actually requires this jackknife ability to flex, right? Because as the business has to pivot to survive in this ever-changing landscape, that one singular skill is just not as powerful as the multidimensional skill set, or the ability to raise your hand and say, hey, I know enough to be dangerous here, but let me pull in my friend over here who's really going to wow you. And I think you get a lot of credibility and maybe even personal satisfaction from getting to work with others.
You start when you're going from hyphen to hyphen, like if you're going from engineering to product to marketing to sales, all these divergent things, you start seeing commonalities between them. And the stuff that you learned in one aspect helps you approach the other task in a unique way. I'll do that. I'll express a little bit about that by sharing a bit of my background. In college, I sold cars. And then my major was in marketing, sold cars. And afterwards, I went into the healthcare analytics space in a sales development role, and ultimately got extremely attached to the operations around sales, about how within this healthcare analytics space, like, how do we best find organizations and hospitals that are better served by our software. Well, part of that journey, you reach a limit of what you can do in an Excel spreadsheet. And I had some friends over on the data science team. Shout out Murray Webb, shout out Nathan Stott, amazing leaders and coaches in that journey. And they helped me, but there were some limitations that I wanted to develop more powerful analytics for this sales operations purpose. They got me inside. They were doing predictive analytics based on electronic medical record data within health systems. And I got obsessed and more obsessed with learning Python and these data structures and everything like that. And I pivoted my career into that as a full-time role. So one thing that's been really interesting while working in data science with a sales, marketing, and operations background is just immediately like you talk to me about an algorithm or an approach, and the mind starts firing into all the different things, the different types of, like, there's actuarial algorithms, for example, that predict based on various factors the time. Like these were made originally to predict the time until someone might pass away. But there's the interesting thing. So we're talking about actuarial and healthcare algorithms, and now those same algorithms and approaches are some of the biggest drivers of computing lifetime value and customer retention in digital health in digital applications. So it's amazing once you're becoming multi-hyphenate, we're in a multi-hyphenate world, and it's extremely important to be able to connect all those dots together.
Well, Chris, it's so interesting. My second job, shortly after my first job in true healthcare at United Health Group as an admin, was actually as a data analyst for a very cool automated underwriting tool. And shout out to my friend Jonathan Gelber, who had seen me like in law school and was basically like, I think you could become a data analyst. And I was like, sure, does that pay more than being an admin? I would love to do that. And so, starting from that beginning, I have such an appreciation where the data space has moved. I also have an appreciation to know that I am not the best at building algorithms, but I love to see them work. And I think we have such a incredible opportunity now, and our friends in the space have such an opportunity now at the pace at which AI is moving to be able to like truly digest and understand these algorithms. Because I'm all the time like, take this algorithm and explain it to me as if I'm in high school. And it's just such a cheat code for being able to take these really complex subjects and make them more relevant to you and how you learn. And I'm just so excited for that.
That backs back into purpose too, because a lot of what we've probably seen is people that are operating in silos, where data teams only talk to other data people, engineering teams only talk to other engineering people, marketing not allowed to talk to product in some cases. I've seen it. I've seen sales not allowed to talk to go across and give the feedback from customers to other teams. And one big purpose here is, as you're building companies, building departments, or building innovations within your company, let's figure out ways to break down those silos.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I don't know that I always saw it as much as like the not allowed. I always saw it a little bit more as like you're so heads down trying to achieve your singular KPI for your department that you just didn't have the time, or maybe you didn't have enough pain. I always like to say like you learn through pain. Like until you've totally missed a requirement because you didn't bring in a collaborator in the right way at the right time, like you don't think to yourself, should I look upstream or downstream to see if someone else is going to be impacted by this thing that I'm doing? And maybe I should reach out or raise a flag and say, hey, do you need to jump in on this before, the code has passed too far or is deep in, UAT or QA testing, and then we've got to go back and rework. And so I just think we're both like agile learners. Our audience is a bunch of agile folks, and I think we're going to get to a place where we're going to be able to share learnings from our listeners, and maybe even bring some listeners on.
Hit us up on LinkedIn. We're very lonely people, as you can tell. So right now, again, I didn't even say the theme of this of episode 1, but it's don't gatekeep yourself. You're looking at us on, I've got a fancy camera, I know, and fancy microphone, everything like that. Melissa doesn't, but we said, hey, let's go ahead and start anyway. You didn't hear a theme song whenever you came on here. You didn't see any fancy, flashy animations. It's coming. It's on the way. We've built and done podcasting before. We know what we're doing, but we decided, why not? Like, you can start with, why wait? You can start with the camera that's built into your computer. You can start with a webcam. Exactly. But you'll hear it in a second when Melissa talks about striving for consistency. But maybe that's a good lead in to just talk about like the ways you can connect with us. LinkedIn for now, Chris Hemphill or Melissa Reilly. Because we want to hear your affirmations and stories and things that we can bring back and read and share with the audience. We're building a tribe here.
And Chris, I've already been lining up guests for us, as I speak to some of my innovative founders, and as you and I are hitting up conferences and we're finding others and, asking others, do they want a chance to come on with us and have their voice be heard or talk about a topic that's really important to them, aligned to hope or power or healthcare. And resoundingly, I've got people lined up ready to chat.
What would you be excited about?
Well, I don't know if we have to do anything legal-wise before we bring people on, but let's just talk a little bit about themes. I've got three amazing founders who are coming into new spaces in the healthcare ecosystem. I have a medical director who is really excited to chat about the ways in which he sees measurement-based care evolving, which that should be a topic for the future, because like, is measurement-based care actually evolving right now? Just to name a few. And I know that more of my recent background has been in the mental health space the last 3 years, but in this last year, I've definitely gotten to expand my roots back into the digital health ecosystem, even consumer goods. Yesterday, I was with this incredible early stage founder who was working on adaptogens for your hair. And I was like, I would not have had this opportunity a year ago to have this amazing conversation in the middle of New York City.
Oh, that's where you're on the train to going there. You know what? I have a little bit more flexibility. I can actually name drop some of these folks, and had some extremely exciting conversations this week. The top one on my mind, shout out to Crystal Brown. She is the CEO of a Detroit-based company. I'm in Detroit. You might hear me mention the D way too much, but it's a Detroit-based company called CircNova. And what she's founded is a drug discovery company for circular RNA approaches, using technologies that are similar to the protein folding technology that we've seen from Google. I hadn't spoken to anyone in that space before, so we actually did a really good conversation. We're gonna air that at some point on this podcast. But she talked about her journey in being in a deep scientific field. Like drug discovery has a whole lot more requirements and red tape and things like that around it than something like measuring churn for a digital health app. So it was just an extremely fascinating conversation about establishing a business in an extremely difficult space. And we know that that there's less than 1% of venture capital is going to Black women founders. And she talks about standing up within that space and being able to operate her themes and motivations for keeping on going in a very difficult funding environment. And another thing that I think needs to be heard among these innovators is, before going into before establishing this business, she failed at a startup, and she was not embarrassed to talk about it or anything like that. She wanted to talk openly about the grieving process. She just wants it out there about what is actually going on and what people go through when they're trying to build up these innovations. So extremely excited to get that conversation up. Melissa, you haven't seen it yet. We're going to watch it first, and then we can talk about it soon.
And I think everyone's going to be really excited to hear it. When I have dinners out in the marketplace and you get more than one founder at a table together, you definitely hear a lot of stories about grief and failure, but also about like, what did they learn from that failure? And how did they emerge from that grief? And it's kind of in those moments, I think we find some of the most insightful future actions that others can learn from.
Yeah, we're not prepared if we think that it's just going to be a rosy straight line to the top. But when we hear from people about what the trenches were and what the bounce back was like, that's what that hope, power, and healthcare comes from, right?
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, there's a quote. We're going to go into a couple of quotes and affirmations. Again, we invite you to share affirmations with us. But one that Laura Cracian on LinkedIn, you should be following her. Like, if you're in the serious mental illness space and you want to hear about patient advocacy and hear from people that are extremely impacted with family members and serious mental illness, she is one of the key advocates. Her, Crystal Fox as well. Go follow Laura on LinkedIn. Here is what she shared that really got me fired up this week. People speak of hope as if it's this delicate, ephemeral thing made of whispers and spider webs. It's not. Hope has dirt on her face, blood on her knuckles, and grit of cobblestones in her hair. And just spat out a tooth as she goes, rising for another go.
Chris, I feel like that was a picture of me last week trying to get through, trying to overcome this problem that was pretty challenging. So that really resonates with me, and I'm sure it resonates with so many others out there, because I think hope is so synonymous with what you find in those moments of grit, and when resilience comes to find you.
Right. And maybe like we have the name Hope, Power in Healthcare, and hope gets a bad rap. I know there's a book called Hope is Not a Strategy. Yeah, it's not, but it's still an attribute that is very much needed. It helps you get through harder times and everything like that. So a group of people that I like to think about when I think about the word hope is Antoine Williams and Alex Meyersberger. They lead the Young Health. No, it's now renamed the Health Leader Summit. I guess they decided they're not young anymore, but it's now called the Health Leader Summit. And they give me a hat. I don't have it with me, but it says Healthcare Optimist on it. And when I think about the words optimism and hope, I think about responsibility. We can go and just be blindly optimistic and think that things are going to just go well. But being a healthcare optimist requires more than that. There's a knowledge, like when we see how people are bouncing back, how people are navigating extremely difficult times right now, we can have a very informed optimism that we're taking in what's happening. We're seeing, if we see 97% of people failing, then we're asking about what's different about that 3%, and we're orienting strategies and encouraging strategies to move that way. So Laura, again, thank you very much for that quote. And we invite you, anybody, to, if there's any powerful affirmations, we would love to read them on air and shout you out for it.
I saw your data science come through. It's almost like you wanted to build this like hope algorithm, as you started talking about your 97% versus your 3 that are succeeding. And one of the things that's been so meaningful for me, and I bet Laura, feels this and operates like this as well, is hope gets this bad rap because it sounds like it's passive, right? But in your quote, it's active. You don't end up with teeth falling out and dirt all over you unless you're like either in the trenches digging or, taking on this huge amount of work. And so I really have been living by this whole motto of it's the people that are at the bottom and that will continue to stay at the bottom. They're competing with each other. The winners, the ones at the top, have found unique ways to collaborate. And when, they're covered in dirt, they're like phoning a friend, being like, can you lift me out of the trench? Can you put my tooth back in? And their friends are showing up. And I hope that's what you and I will be. Not just hope, I actively know that's what you and I can be for these innovators that are struggling. And with our backgrounds of doing, 3 different payers, many, many pilots, I think we're well positioned to help others.
Imagine if you told me that you're starting a consultancy and I was immediately trying to figure out, who's your book of clients, and start calling them and trying to compete for their business. That doesn't win for anyone. It creates enemies in a situation where there's talents that you have and talents that I have. Why not make those find ways where those intersect and come together? And for the people that are more oriented to what you're bringing to the table, send them your way. And maybe there's some business or something that happens later. But I just remember like being in the startup world, being overly fixated on what the competition was doing.
Yeah, I see that. I see that a lot, just because the market can be so tough. And so that reminder to collaborate and to help others, the best do not need the reminder, but I think others might.
And sometimes we're not you might not be at your best all the time. Everybody's got tremendous potential. We fall into rabbit holes. We fall into doom scrolls and things like that. Sometimes you need that little nudge, that little jolt. So yeah,
with us. If we're in too deep of a rabbit hole, say no more of that.
Also, yeah, so sometimes I'm talking to myself too. Maybe I am overly competitive at some point, and getting up here and like talking about it, like this reminder, like, oh shoot, there's some stuff I got to correct too.
Well, I hope we've given everyone just a taste of who we are, things we'll chat about, a little bit of hope for the future. Should we segue into our next section, the roundup?
Yeah, I think we should jump into the roundup. Again, events that have been impactful or important over the past week or month. And we both come from the mental health space in different areas. I worked at a company called Wobot Health in the data science and commercial intelligence arena. Melissa led strategy and growth product at Evernorth Behavioral Health Services most recently. So you're going to hear a lot about mental health. One thing that has been circulating heavily on the news is this innovation that came out of Dartmouth called Therabot. Melissa, have you got some background on Therabot?
No, please go ahead, Chris.
Really got Therabot on the national radar. There is a New York Times story that we will link to based on what happened. So New York Times is talking about a digital mental health chatbot. What the big catalyst behind that was the New England Journal of Medicine published the study that they produced, where they deployed Therabot to a population that screened for either major depressive disorder, anxiety, or various types of eating disorders. Sorry. Yeah. So they tested into those three overarching categories, and a portion of that population was prescribed this chat-based therapy, chat-based bot, while the other was what they call a waitlist protocol, a very fancy multisyllabic way of saying nothing. So there was a requirement that to receive the money for the study, they would have to take they take a psychological examination at an initial point and 4 weeks in and 8 weeks into the study. And what they found was a significant difference between they found a significant reduction in those depression, anxiety, and eating disorder symptomology across those groups, with obviously very much favoring the group that was prescribed Therabot. So there's just been a lot of conversation about the role that AI plays within a mental health journey, and I just wanted to put my 2 cents into the study and the design and all that. I'd noticed that there were some complaints about the fact that it was a waitlist protocol versus the bot. I actually am a big proponent of the way they delivered that, because you have a population that is given access to something, and you have a population that's giving nothing. I think that we're kind of backwards when we're constantly talking about this concept of an AI chatbot versus a therapist. In the real world, where in the United States you're looking at average wait times of between 4 and 6 weeks before you even see anyone. I was speaking with someone from Germany who I said 4 to 6 weeks, and he said, "Oh, that's impressive. It's 6 months here." That's what we're competing against in the real world. It's not AI versus therapist. We're looking at bot versus no access at all. So rather than constantly having these boxing gloves on, where it's this question of AI replacing jobs. Well, let's take the psychiatry job pipeline. According to a study I've recently read with the Kaiser Family Foundation, I'll find it and link it down in the show notes. They examined the current pipeline of psychiatry residents and the lack of the unfulfilled demand and need for mental health services by county across the United States, and did a little bit of math, and it found that if we were to triple that pipeline, triple the number of people, magic wand, and triple the number of people that are in psychiatry residency programs, we still wouldn't meet that demand.
Yeah, well, you bring up so many really interesting points. So I had two fascinating meals with healthcare innovators. So one was a breakfast. My friend Bo Swanson, a former executive, Cigna Optum, now is in academia. And he was comparing and contrasting how you learn inside a large corporation and how academia purports you to cite a lot of your sources and follow almost a specific academic protocol, right? So in the article that you highlight, there's some interesting points around like how they did the study and basics of study design, right? That probably fall into the rules around how studies should be designed. But you create an evidence base in a lot of ways to really for liability remediation purposes, right? And so what people need doesn't always get met because a lot of times people are so worried about being defensible or making it through scientific hurdles or academic hurdles that were created to purport patient safety. And so oftentimes innovation can die in a regulatory landscape. And maybe we've shifted so far into worrying about the precision and following the rules versus is this thing good for the world? But changing this process, this stringent process, could have some downsides. And so perhaps it's one of those innovator dilemmas that we need to continue to opine on, to say, is there lightweight ways to test novel things, or a regulatory fast pass that still keeps people safe while, not killing something that might be helpful for others.
And one big, like, we all have a role to play in that. One thing that I said at a behavioral health tech conference is that product design is study design. When you based on the way that you design your product and the way that people click around or talk back and forth, it's like when you start looking, you can look at it observationally, you can look at it in the in RCT formats, but no matter what happens, there's an influence in the design decisions and what you can learn about a population. So as innovators and as healthcare leaders, we should be thinking about the types of questions that a study might answer. So there shouldn't be a complaint about the fact that this was a test against a waitlist protocol. It should be like, oh, okay, so now we see we've examined based on chatbot versus what people are normally faced with, and then a follow-up study or a subsequent study can ask different questions, and we start being able to look at this thing in multiple dimensions. So rather than looking for one study to rule them all, it's a matter of what question do we want to answer and what's the appropriate design to answer that question.
And what did we learn from study one that informs the next study, or even better, that next action? I don't know if I have this precisely right, but that sounds a little bit more like first principles, Chris, in terms of learning through doing, right? And then taking that set of learning and applying it to the next, question set or learning adventure.
It's the only way that a lot of people that can play the game right now. So it's still a matter of getting in early and understanding, I've designed this product, I've designed this front-end experience. I know it's hard to hire a data scientist or statistician early on, but pick up a phone a friend and ask about the way that you'd carry on the appropriate A/B testing to learn about your product. Melissa, I know we're coming up on time. Do you have a hard stop coming up? Okay. Well, excited to share that story about Therabot. Let us know what you think about that. Let's jump into yours.
Yeah, so this one was really, really interesting. So I don't think you can work at a payer without having been really influenced by the death of Brian Thompson in the last year. And so we see an article, we'll link out to it, around major payers who are spending a lot of money on executive security. I had like a little bit of a visceral reaction to the article myself for two reasons. One, my husband, who still works at a payer, was traveling overseas. And so, I think a lot about that for my friends that are at payers that are speaking at some of these conferences. And, even for my innovator friends that want to connect with payers. Like, the rules have changed now, both around how people at payers travel, how innovators can connect with payers since their travels are not so widely published, Chris. And then even personally was just kind of thinking about, my husband who took down his LinkedIn, who basically was like, yeah, I'm not really sure that I want right now to advertise that I'm working at a payer. So I didn't actually really like this article. I mean, I'm grateful for my friends that are still at payers that are, I think that's great that the payers are shoring up security around payers. But I actually think it's going to push our industry back if we start creating more guardrails between who and how can talk to payers. And it goes back to our earlier conversation, this line between safety and action and risk mitigation is getting really interesting.
We have a big reaction to something extremely scary. I remember around that time looking at the reactions, looking at what the public was saying, and then I did a weird thing, which was I input a bunch of the articles around into ChatGPT, and I asked it to create a cyberpunk story looking 10 years into the future based on like what are the implications around like executive security and things like that 10 years into the future. And there was an era in the 1920s called the Gilded Age, and it created a term. I thought it was pretty clever.
Yeah, it's like for those that aren't history buffs, right? It's like that Gatsby kind of era, right?
The term that it came up with for this future era was the Gilded Cage.
Oh, tell me more.
Was the story, it kind of blinded, like maybe I prompted it in this direction, but it highlighted a continuing division between wealthy people. Like after that news spread around and there were uprisings and things like that, it just created this big division and wedge between haves and have nots. Gated communities got higher and things like that. And ultimately just less information exchange, less cross-pollination, and more of a separation from understanding the concerns and needs of the people.
And this totally frustrates me because the best efforts that I've ever seen take place, and we can certainly, when we have more time, talk through some examples, I've found really happen when, the digital health or the provider group, who may be innovative or working with an innovator, the payer, the member are all actually actively working together to design a new system. That rarely gets to happen because of the cages that exist. But when people can come together and do some of that rapid design, or there's less firewalls between the movement of data between those different parties, wow, the speed at which innovation happens there, Chris, it's probably 6x, 10x what we'd see when the firewalls are up.
I know we got to jump to the next topic, but you've had such deep experience within the payer landscape, and I wonder, in your mind, what does a system start looking like when we start incorporating more feedback and more listening and learning from regular folks?
It's something I actually spend a lot of time really thinking about. It's definitely an interactive system. I don't know that I have the best words for that, but it's one where the real time keeps coming up. Like that's this holy grail of like real time information exchange without, a 30, 60, 90 day claims lag. I've been really excited to see some founders that are like innovating around that space. One that I spent a lot of time with previously is my friend Aran at Vim. He did a ton of great work around, engaging with providers at point of care inside the EMR. commonplace maybe now, but wasn't when he started down the path. And I think, he and his team really drove a lot of that point of care integration.
Just to hear, this is put a bookmark on that one, because we can keep talking about it, keep sharing ideas once we see more news stories that.
Before we close out, any articles, we won't get to discuss them yet, but anything you saw that you think our listeners should, maybe take a look at, and maybe we can, move it to new business for next month. Should we just, share our links around the autism article, or, the Stat News article you found?
Okay, yeah. So you come in listening from an informed perspective, then it becomes more of a conversation. Let's do that. Lightning round of articles to read. Go check out the Healthcare AI Adoption Index. We're going to link it in the show notes. But if you are a builder and you're looking at it, and you're trying to understand how tools are adopted among provider, payer, life sciences, et cetera, Bessemer Venture Partners did an extensive study into that. So look at that in the show notes. Your turn.
Yeah, I think everyone should be keeping an eye on what's happening in the autism space. So working with 4 amazing companies that touch on neurodivergence, Josh and Avela, Spectrum AI, PlaySpace. I really feel like this is a very interesting and evolving space. I'm not going to say, is it good or bad? What happened this week? An autism registry was announced. There was massive pushback. And now we're looking at more funding for autism. I'm maybe cheering for that. I need to learn a little bit more, but would love to hear what others are thinking about this. And maybe we can dialogue a little bit more on it, and maybe even include some listeners' reaction next week in the roundup.
Oh, but no premature cheering.
Yes.
So we'll drop some other items in the notes, but you had brought up a something in the pop culture that I thought we should bring a little spotlight on too, around The Handmaid's Tale.
Okay, so people who spend a lot of time with me realize that I really like pop culture. When I have some downtime, I love to, maybe catch up on a show or catch up on some of the latest news. And so something I've been consistently watching is The Handmaid's Tale. And Chris, I heard you've never seen it.
Seen it. I've read a portion of the book, but then I got distracted by another book at the time. But
okay, the book is great too. I read it earlier when I was in high school, and then read it again in my later 30s, like 2 totally different experiences. But the genesis of the Handmaid's Tale book is really an alternative dystopian future that is all created or caused because of a lack of fertility inside the population. And horrible things happen to women. And as a huge proponent for the women's health space, sometimes the show can be awful to watch. But why would I bring this up on a podcast about hope, right? As you watch the show, the protagonist, June, is the symbol of hope, for this population. And when we look at some things that are happening in the news, like a decline in funding around women's health initiative, for those of us that might watch The Handmaid's Tale, you might kind of look sideways, Chris. So, I'd encourage you, to take a listen, or read an episode recap, and I think we're happy to share a fun clip as well and get some reactions. But I'm really excited about this segment that we'll do where we, tie some current media clips to some talking points on the show.
Yeah, we'll go deeper on that, and your description has sold me on getting maybe a few episodes out of the way before we talk again. With that, we're gonna have to close out a little bit early today, but thank you for hopping on with us. Don't gatekeep yourself. Don't wait till everything's fancy, laid out, fancy animations, everything like that. We just wanted to get started and get talking to you. And it's easy to find us right now. We don't have a website up just yet, but me and Melissa were just click on our LinkedIn profiles in the show notes. If you have any ideas or stories that you want to share, or news items that you want to share that you think haven't gotten the spotlight that they deserve, hit us up.
Yes, and Chris, I think you and I will both be out in the ecosystem in the next week or so. I'm headed to Conference Board and Cal HR with my phenomenal company, the Gumi Group. People can even find us out in the wild.
If you're going to be on the other side of the United States in Orlando, Florida, I'm actually doing a talk at the HMPS conference with regards to the power of AI within healthcare marketing. So I'll be giving some deep context about some stuff that's been in my career since 2018. So with that, Melissa, I guess we sign out. My message to everybody, I just want everybody to keep spreading the hope.
And I would say keep collaborating. Chris and I are so excited to collaborate with you, and I'm hopeful for our next episode.